I'm Rob Hopkins from the Transition Network.
Rob, why are you here at the CLT conference?
Well, I'm here because I gave a short presentation about transition and so on, and I think it's in the Transition Network is very much looking at practical responses to peak oil and climate change and looking at relocalization as a response. And CLTs are one of the really important mechanisms that the communities can use to in order to start building that more localized infrastructure. So building buildings which keep money locally, which empower local people, get them involved, integrate renewable energy, integrate food production, use local materials, and then all the other livelihoods that can then spin off those choices of materials. They're a really key tool for bringing power back to local people at a time when we most need it.
And how is the CLT, so how is the Transition Town Network going to help the activists behind CLTs bring them forward?
Well, I think a number of transition groups around the country now are actively looking at CLTs as models. So where I'm based in Totnes in Devon, for example, we've got two projects that are looking at CLT as the model that underpins it, one of which is in the middle of town, taking over an old abandoned industrial site, turning it into a mixture of affordable housing and green business startup units, and another one which is looking to build a number of houses more on the edge of town. And CLT is a really important model for that. So I'm hoping to pick up here today lots of tools that we can start to feed back into the network, put out to different groups so that they feel they've got the tools and resources to be able to start these projects themselves and to draw on the long and hard-won experience of CLTs over the years.
And there's a lot of CLTs, a lot of transition towns in urban areas now. Do you feel there's the same potential for CLTs in cities?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we need them all over the place in the same way that transition is something that we've put out there as an idea, and then people are trying it out in a whole range of different contexts, and it looks very different everywhere that it goes. So how people use those models in different places is always going to be intriguing and different. But I mean, there's proof here today that community land trusts can work in urban settings as well as in rural and village settings, in the same way that we're starting to find that transition sits in those contexts. So I'm really here today to pick up more ideas about how these things start to knit together.
Okay. And what were your thoughts on the Minister's speech and his announcement of measures to bring forward local housing trusts?
I thought it was really promising in terms of there's lots there in the kind of localism, big society agenda that we can hang transition and local food and localism and sorry, I've got to start that again. There's lots there within what the government's talking about around localism and big society that we can hang a lot of transition things onto. The one thing that I was slightly concerned about was when he said that if 90% of a community were behind something, then it could bypass the planning process and wouldn't need to go for conventional planning. Firstly, my experience is that actually the 90% is quite a tricky thing to get to. But also now when we should be really focused on making all new buildings as low carbon as possible and generating as much energy as they can as possible and really creating a legacy of zero carbon buildings, I don't know quite how you're going to achieve buildings that meet those kind of standards if they bypass the planning system altogether. You know, it could be a model that leads to really innovative low carbon buildings, or it could be just a charter for rubbish housing. And that part of it concerned me. I didn't really feel like that part of it was thought through. But as I say, I think within what the government's talking about around localism and the big society, there's lots of hooks that we can get these issues in.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure, thank you.